show. It's Tuesday. We're working on some Noah's Archipelago stuff. Specifically, we are plowing ahead with some of the last cast portraits for the the first Noah comic treasury book. I'm doing like a meet the cast section. So let me just switch to that camera output. So this is one we did a while ago. Stacy, she is the girlfriend of Noah's eldest son, Adam. Why don't we start now, today, with inking a portrait of Adam's mom. Just gonna kind of shove things up a little bit, like that. So Adam's mom's name is Jillian, but she's always called Gigi. She does appear a couple times in the webcomic version. Not a whole lot, but not necessarily always explaining who she is. She's got the little cafe catering business, so every so often we would see Noah going and having a burger at Gigi's place. So, but they were together when they were in high school, so 30 years ago at this point in the story. And when Noah knocked her up, you know, he did the right thing. They got married. It didn't last, though. So, and Gigi's, some of the stuff I had planned with Gigi never ended up really ending up in the comics. But after Noah and Gigi got divorced, Gigi ended up shacking up with Glen, who we haven't seen much in the comic lately. More the first year or so, we would see more of Glen. But he's the car guy, and he's also plays in tribute bands as a guitarist. And Glen and Noah actually were in bands together back in the day. They actually had a Motley Crue tribute band and whatnot. These days, Glen works at a junkyard because he's a big car guy. And give Gigi a little bit of roots. Although at this point, Gigi's hair is probably starting to come in gray, so I don't know how much roots that really gives you if you're going around as platinum blonde. But anyways, so Gigi, some of her hobbies, I mean, she started working, obviously, originally as a waitress, and then had a chance to kind of take over the cafe that she worked at. So that's what she did, and now it's kind of a catering business as well. A lot of this stuff isn't really discussed so much in the actual comic. But Gigi is also probably the reason why Noah got into wedding band stuff, because Gigi does cater weddings and stuff like that. So it's probably a situation somewhere along the line where a client's band canceled and she's like, oh, you know, my baby daddy sings, type of thing. But anyways, they have remained friends over the years, and you know, there's quite a lot of respect there mutually. And she's one of Noah's ex-wives, because there's multiple, that his main wife, current wife, forever wife, Ruth, doesn't have a problem with Gigi. One of Noah's other ex-wives, Denise, was a Vegas showgirl. That marriage really only lasted like 3 weeks. But anyways, Noah has stayed friends with Denise as well, but Ruth always kind of gets weirdly weirdly insecure about Denise for some reason, but she doesn't get insecure about the other ex-wives. So, anyways, so we're gonna have Gigi wearing her little apron, half apron sort of thing with her notepad in it. At some point, might actually be the first graphic novel that I do for Noah's Archipelago. But I am kind of thinking at some point doing kind of a chronology of Noah's marriages. The joke is initially, well, didn't think it was going to be that big of a project. And I just had this idea. Actually, Glen was supposed to be the main character initially. It wasn't supposed to be a comic. It was supposed to be a puppet show. So it was going to be Glen talking shit about, rock star news and whatnot, and then being interrupted by his old lady Gigi. And Gigi's more interested in gossiping about the neighbors. And anyways, that was going to be the thing. And then it kind of mutated where it was going to be more about Glen and Gigi and their world, and not so much about, the latest gossip about David Lee Roth or whatever. So that was the thing. And then I started fleshing out the world of Glen and Gigi and all this. And so I had the idea of Glen being in playing in tribute bands and whatnot, and having this one dude in the tribute band scene who's really annoying, who's like a Bono wannabe and all this, starting to sound familiar for anybody who's seen the Noah's Archipelago stuff. So that's kind of the origin of Noah. And then I was thinking there's got to be something with his wife, with Gigi. And then I kind of just always thinking, I was like, well, maybe this Noah dude is Gigi's ex-husband. Because that kind of made sense to me. So that's that. And then as I started brainstorming where Noah was actually going to be the antagonist of the whole idea, then Noah started to become the more interesting character, I thought. But initially it was supposed to be even that Noah was on his fifth wife. And that is actually canonically correct. It's just that as the comic kind of became, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that Noah's Archipelago is like a family comic, but it's kind of bordering on that. Certainly as it became more about Noah's family and less about his, singing in bands and stuff like that, that's part of the story, but it's kind of more incidental. It kind of developed and went in a bit of a different direction, but I always kind of left it as that, yeah, he's been married 5 times, and he's got 4 kids, 2 with the current wife, 1 with Gigi, and that's Adam, so Stacy's guy, and another son, Duke, and we will do a portrait of Duke later in the show tonight as well. I know I initially kind of was a bit of a sleazeball's kind of pushing it, but he definitely had a bit of a darker side, but I always felt kind of off, and maybe a little too much like one of my other characters from a different project, the Nick White show. But anyways, Noah kind of ended up wanting to become more of like a fun-loving dude and all this, so the story evolved that way. So anyways, talking about Gigi, because we kind of have been talking about everybody but Gigi, and even though we're drawing her right now. She's kind of baby crazy. She only had the one. and she and Glen aren't actually married. She's been wanting to get married, but Glen keeps insisting that the government doesn't need to know his business and all this stuff. So, you know, so that's kind of annoying for Gigi. She does like bright pastel colors, so like it's black and white. I'm leaving everything kind of light because she'd probably be wearing like kind of the shawl duster, whatever you want to call it, would probably be like a lavender. Her dress might be like very pale blue, whatnot. She does wear blue eyeshadow and that sort of stuff. But you know, very pastel kind of ultra girly. She's a little bit similar to Baby Ratson in that sense. At a certain point, it kind of becomes where you have to really actively make sure you're not repeating character gags and whatnot. But I do see Gigi and Baby as being different. I mean, Gigi, I think, is more earthy than Baby. And, well, plus, you know, Baby's a rat. All that sort of stuff. But anyways, Gigi is very much looking forward to being a grandma any day now. Whereas Adam's a bit irresponsible. And, you know, Stacy too. I mean, Stacy, at some point she wants to have kids, but she keeps thinking of that, you know, down in the future. But, you know, they're in their late 20s now, so they really probably should get on with that because it does get, you know, you do run out of time. I'll just say that. But anyways, there was one of the comics from a while back where because Noah's got his baby daughter Valerie with Ruth, so Noah being kind of the stay-at-home dad when we're about to draw Ursula here. When Ursula is at school, he'll sometimes take Valerie and go over to Gigi's cafe to hang out and whatnot, have a cheeseburger, all that sort of stuff. And Adam hangs out there as well. And of course, whenever Gigi sees Valerie or any baby, she's like, you know, and then she turns around and starts nagging Adam, when are you going to have wee ones? And Adam's excuse so far is, Ma, you're too young to be a grandma. Which, I mean, historically speaking, no, she's not. Although, according to our current culture, I mean, she'd be in her late 40s. I guess she'd be 47, same age as Noah. But historically, she would definitely have been a grandma and probably close to being, well, maybe not close to being a great grandma, but I guess if you do what some of my cousins did and have your first kid when you're like 17, 18, you know, and then if your kid repeats that, you're going to be a grandma in your mid-30s. So yeah, she wouldn't quite be great grandma yet, but she would definitely be a grandma already normally. So she can't wait. But we're going to get a little tiny snippet of Noah here, just kind of like his elbow. But anyways, one of the things that I noticed, and I guess I should look it up at some point, but you know, kind of wondered, like, okay, so say with Ursula, obviously obviously Noah's current wife, Ruth, is Adam's stepmother, but you never really hear about that going the other direction, that, you know, Ursula is Adam's little sister, but I never hear people referring to like your dad's previous wife before you were born as a stepmother, although in a sense, you know, it's your half sibling's parent, so it ought to be the same, right? Anyways, I should look that up at some point if there's a specific term for it. Ursula likes Gigi, And the other thing is kind of like I heard, sometimes you'll refer to um, your friends. You'll tell your kid, like for example, when I was a little kid, my dad's best friends were Leo and Shane, and then their wives, Frida and Esther, and we always referred to, I always it was always kind of phrased in terms of Uncle Shane, Uncle Leo. And, when you're little, you kind of accept that. And then at a certain point, you go, well, wait a minute. None of these four people are siblings to either of my parents. And then, when you're a little older, you understand, oh, it's an honorific, you know? So I guess, I'll have to fix Ursula's nose there. I guess you could sort of, Ursula could sort of refer to Gigi as like Aunt Gigi, but then that's weird because her brother calls Gigi mom, because she's Adam's mom. Anyways, I should look that up. It's one of those weird little things I've been trying to figure out. Or it always pops through my head when I've been working on this comic over the last few years, but it'll pop up in my head at a time when I can't just like grab my phone and Google it. So I'll be like driving and be like, oh, well, wait a minute. So is Gigi Ursula's stepmom, even though she was married to Noah before Ursula was born? Anyways, I don't know. I'm probably bloviating, but these are the kind of weird things that we kind of modern society with the divorce rate and whatnot kind of makes sort of awkward to sort out. Ursula's head looks kind of squished, but I think I may Photoshop and make her eyes kind of smaller and then it'll work. But anyways, just looking kind of going like that angle looks weird. And we're going to get our Noah appearance here. Whatever Ursula looks happy about on the menu, it's going to be either burgers, pizza, or chocolate cake. I also kind of get the feeling like Ursula is the kind of kid who doesn't really need the menu because she's probably going to have like 3 things that she likes in total, pizza, pizza, burger, hamburgers, french fries, chocolate cake, So she doesn't really need the menu. And probably I don't envision Gigi's as really being a pizza joint, so she's there for hamburgers. But anyways, looking at the menu is something grown-ups do. So, Ursula's kind of at that age, I think, based on my recollection of being a kid. There comes an age where you kind of want to act all grown up. So when, grown-ups look at the menu, therefore you do, type of thing. Let's assume it has those kind of stripes like metal tables kind of have. I'm just going to let it fade out here rather than fill in the details. So we've got that and that and Anyways, so I think I've mentioned before that that Noah's Archipelago, that world is kind of centered around Victoria, BC. So, and I live about an hour away from Victoria. So, anyways, I had all this idea in my head about, okay, and Gigi's gonna have a little diner or something like that. And then I realized there's actually on the Hillside in Quadra or something like that. There is actually a Gigi's Cafe that does catering. That's not the one I was thinking of. I don't think I realized that one existed when I came up with this storyline for Gigi. Anyways, let's carry on. So now it's time to draw Glen. So now I'm gonna shift the camera just a little bit over this way. Definitely nowadays what I do is I put the two drawings top to top so I can like just basically spin the paper as opposed to pull it back and forth. It kind of makes it a little easier to manage, but well, anyways. So now we're gonna draw Glen. And Glen, when I first was thinking of him, I was thinking of like Nikki Sixx's hairdo, from Motley Crue, which would be kind of like spiky tendrils. Kind of would look a little bit, I guess, more like Ursula's hairdo, although Ursula's hairdo isn't supposed to be like spiked up or teased up. It's just her hair is always a mess. Anyways, I think the first time I drew Glen for the actual comic and was kind of goofing off, I just did it quick and it was like looping, and so they ended up like this instead of pointy, and I was like, this kind of look like dreadlocks. And then I thought, there's just something about Glen that he kind of looks like the kind of dude who might have dreadlocks. I don't know, it seemed to fit. So so Glen has dreads. And in the webcomic full color version, I always kind of did them like a darker brown and a lighter brown. So we're going to, black and white, I think we're going to do some of them basically black and then some very dark with shading, but so it does kind of distinguish itself. And he has this red bandana that he always has over his forehead. Some might say that's to hide the fact that his hairline's starting to go back, creep back, but And it is kind of canon in the webcomic. Just kind of mentioned in passing, but that Glen and Noah have known each other since middle school when Noah's family moved to Victoria from Manitoba, from Flin Flon. And Glen's always been kind of a bully, or he kind of came across as a bully. He used to bully Noah in junior high, middle school. Used to shove him into lockers and stuff like that, but he and Noah eventually kind of became friends, although kind of from Glen's perspective, kind of a bit of a, shall we say, begrudging kind of a friendship. Anyways. And Glen's the guy who kind of knows all like the fix-it dude type of stuff. A lot of which he's imparted to Adam. But some of the earliest comics actually were Glen instructing Noah on things like how to use a lawnmower and all that sort of stuff. Which is probably a little too extreme. I think Noah would be able to figure out the lawnmower thing. I'm going to soak that pen for a sec, and we're going to go to a thicker nib to fill in some other dreadlocks here. I'm filling these in solid. I guess it's a job for the brush. So, did I already mention Glen is a guitarist? So, and he currently plays in a, let me see here. He's got a Aerosmith tribute band. Probably still has a Motley Crue tribute band. I forget if there was a third that he was supposed to be in. But in that sense, he was inspired by some dude I used to know who played in multiple tribute bands. When I had first met the dude, he was playing rhythm guitar in a Guns N' Roses tribute band, but he also had, there was an AC/DC band he played in, etc. And then later on, he moved down to Mazatlan, and I've lost touch with him. But what I last heard was that he had actually two different Led Zeppelin, or no, he had an AC/DC tribute band. He had a Led Zeppelin tribute band. Oh yeah, the two was that for a while he was kind of back and forth between Canada and Mexico. So he had a Canadian AC/DC tribute band, and then he had his Mexican AC/DC tribute band and all that. So it's kind of an interesting world when you get into all the tribute acts and that sort of stuff. So that was something I kind of drew on when I was brainstorming for Noah initially. Do the rest of his dreads after we finish the pen work. Sounds like the neighborhood cats are fighting again. I don't know if that picked up in my mic, but starting to just hear a little. Usually that kind of squabbling doesn't start till after dark, but I guess they're on it early today. They're keeners. Just realized actually Ursula's in both of these cast portraits, because once I finish drawing Glen, what he's going to be glaring over at his car, and kind of in a show and shine kind of a situation, and it has a sign saying "Do not touch," and Ursula is not just touching; she's leaning over it. And it feels like these ones are going pretty quick, but famous last words. On next week's show, we will wrap up the cast portraits. We will do full page portrait of Noah and a full page portrait, well, kind of in the middle of the page, but probably a full page portrait of Ruth. She'll be in her classroom, so she herself is kind of small, but her in her natural environment. So then clothing wise, I think I've only drawn Glenn in situations where it would have been summertime, so we kind of really only ever see him in a t-shirt and jeans. Yeah, because I did have way back in say 2022. I think it is actually in the first this first comic collection book that I'm working on. In October of that year, there was a storyline where Noah's U2 tribute band was going to be in a battle of the bands with Glen's Aerosmith tribute band. And of course, Noah gets all dressed up and wants to look like Bono and all that sort of stuff. And Glen just shows up in a t-shirt and jeans, because Glen's comment was that it's about the music, not some stupid costume. And Noah argues that the costume matters a lot. And that was kind of based on, I do remember that, the former friend, former associate, who played in the tribute bands, that was like a thing, because with the Guns N' Roses tribute band he was playing in, the singer had like a whole like Axl Rose costume, not just one, like multiple, for the, like he had like a Paradise City kind of outfit, and would do like multiple costume changes during their set and try and get the lead singer. Actually, the reason why my friend wasn't the lead guitar player in the band was the singer insisted that whoever was, Slash had to wear the wig and top hat, and my friend was like, fuck that. Like, no way. Like, he was not wearing a wig, he was not wearing a hat, all this sort of stuff. So he took the Izzy role because then he could just kind of show up in like a half unbuttoned white shirt and like a black vest and black jeans. And he already kind of had hair that his hair actually looked more like Nikki Sixx. But if you go to really old Guns N' Roses, like there are some very early pictures of GNR, kind of right around the time they got signed, and Izzy had longer hair. That I can actually think of one photo shoot where he actually kind of looked a lot like Nikki Sixx hairdo wise before he kind of cut it shorter and had his more kind of stereotypical Izzy Stradlin hairdo. Anyways, so but I remember that being a discussion because there was some gig where his GNR band was playing, and there was, like I had mentioned, he had a AC/DC tribute band, but anyways, it wasn't his AC/DC tribute band. There's a different AC/DC tribute band that was opening for the GNR band, and the AC/DC band that was opening, I remember we were sitting together and he's like complaining about them, but they had like all the costumes. The guitarist had like the shorts and the tie and like the whole Angus Young look. And my buddy was just like, effing lunatic, effing idiots. Yeah, oh yeah, he looks like Angus Young. He just screwed up the solo, blah, 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 blah. So I remember, anyways, point is, I remember that being a thing where, you'd get some of the tribute bands that didn't quite bother so much with the look, but they could play it way better. And I've even heard about that sort of stuff in terms of like U2 tribute bands and whatnot. Like I've seen discussions like, oh, so such and such band, yeah, the singer really sounds like Bono. They don't bother with the costumes though. That's stupid, And others where they really want to have like the costume exact and all that sort of stuff. So there we have Glen and Noah in that thing having their little argument because Noah's all dressed up and thinks that that's going to win. And in the end, neither one of them wins. It's the Tina Turner impersonator wins the tribute act, and Glen is very quick to congratulate her, and Noah's just like, okay, that's fine, but I came in second, right? Like all he really cared about was trying to beat Glen. Oh. His thing is he'd always come in second to Glen ever since junior high, so that was his whole thing. But anyways, so we are almost done Glen's dreadlocks. And then we gotta see how badly I draw his car. I need to actually spend some quality time with my sketchbook drawing cars because it's something I haven't really done a lot of over the years. I've more drawn cartoon people or cartoon animals or plants or, whatever, still life stuff. But I have a ton of photos I've taken over the last number of years at like local car club show and shines or, car shows and stuff like that. So I have a ton of my own like personal reference photos, but I need to work on that a little more. And also, I think I've mentioned before, like with my rat characters, Ricky B, the rock and roll rat, drives a 1983 Volkswagen Rabbit, course, for the purposes of that comic, I call it a rat's wagon rabbit. But I have a few things where I'm going to need references for that. I actually bought one of those, like a plastic model kit. I think it's like a 1/24th scale. So actually it might be a little bigger than that. Might be like 1/16th. Anyways, I still have it in the box. I need to take it apart and actually build the model, because then I'll have a reference for when I got to draw Ricky's rabbit from weird angles and stuff like that. Didn't come up in last night's live stream, but I think I do have a like underdrawing, blue underdrawing of like the rear end of the Ricky and Baby stuffing stuff into the hatchback of the rabbit. So I kind of like quickly looked up some photos online, but be better to have the model built. All right, so then we've got Glen drawn now. Let's oh, that's too scratchy. Let's see how well I managed to draw his. It's supposed to be a muscle car, although honestly, when I kind of look at the underdrawing, it looks more like a vintage station wagon. Anyways, I'll go with vintage station wagon. Ursula would be impressed with that anyways, because you don't see them anymore. I guess I'm cross-hatching because I did the one headlight. Back here we need to have something. Just kind of realizing I've got Glen in this comic world, and then in Ricky's world I have Darren. They're both car guys and kind of have similar personalities. Oh well. Although we see Darren a lot more than we see Glen. I have no idea what I'm drawing back here, by the way. It's like, I don't know, it's a car that has like honking big exhaust pipes or something. Just the point is that we see another vehicle back there, so. Don't ask me how Ursula reached up there to put her drink on the roof of the car, but she did. I think that was when I was thinking it would be like a really low, souped-up sports car, but never mind. It wants to be a vintage station wagon, I think. Or at least it is a vintage station wagon, whether it wants to be or not. Maybe Glen did something interesting with his station wagon. Maybe it's a lowrider. I think I had said on my Saturday stream too that it's like, oh, I need to work in my sketchbook more and draw baby Ratson a whole bunch to kind of get her under the pen, so to speak. That's probably not how you say it, but um, just to practice drawing her a lot more. So I did get a sketchbook sorted out, and it'll probably be kind of like for all the female characters, because I mean, hey, I am a girl, obviously. Well, maybe not so obviously. Every so often I've had dudes ask, but yeah, no, I am a girl. I have a deep voice because I genetically have one. I mean, I'm a contralto, but also I smoked in high school, so it has. You sound like this if you smoke too much. Even though I haven't smoked in years, but anyways. So that's the voice I have. But so every so often I do get asked about that. It's like, you're a girl, but you say I have a deep voice. It's like, yeah, girls can have deep voices. That used to be a thing in Hollywood, like Lauren Bacall and what's her name, Katharine Hepburn, and all those sorts of people. But anyways, most of my characters are dudes. It's just kind of how it goes. But kind of realized that some of my characters, other than Ursula I draw quite a lot. But some of my other female characters I just don't draw very often. So I figured, well, I've got a book and I made it like stereotypically pink and all that. So on my Saturday stream this week, I'll show a couple things from that. But I'll be practicing drawing Gigi and let's go lift Glen out of the way. And drawing Stacy. And Ruth, well, Ruth I kind of draw a fair amount, so I'm a little better with Ruth. Now, what we are going to draw now, or who we are going to draw now, is Noah's other son, Duke. So Duke is from his second marriage. As again, he knocked someone up, he did the right thing, he married them, the marriage didn't last. So Duke is 24, I think, 24, 25. So he's a few years younger than Adam. And now Duke's stepdad, when his mom's name is Maria, when Maria remarried, she married this dude named Scott. And Scott is a hunting guide. So Duke kind of always was out hiking and camping and all that sort of stuff, and picked up hunting as a teenager with his stepdad, and that's actually, his stepdad is a hunting guide. I think I said that right. So Duke is carrying on in that family business. So tends to not say a lot, tends to scowl. You'll see thought bubbles over his head when his siblings and his dad are doing weird stuff, but he won't necessarily say things out loud. Strong silent type. He's the younger brother, he's got the bigger, but he does have a big mouth at times, especially when he's baiting his brother Adam or his little sister Ursula. So kind of the sarcastic brother. Well, they're both kind of sarcastic, but Duke tends to get the verbal upper hand. And Duke's never really seen without his dark shades. And at the time when I started the comic, that also applied to Noah, except Noah would wear like the colored, like pastel pink shades or tinted glasses, very Bono-like, whereas Duke's are just kind of, they're just sunglasses. Might have been an idea to shade the glasses first and then draw his eyeballs on top. But anyways, I think that's probably gonna work. So and Duke always has this goatee. I'm actually wearing a hoodie today, so I can kind of use a reference for what the knots look like. that into soak. Now, Duke usually wears kind of a faded black hoodie. Not super black. His brother, Adam, is kind of the goth guy who, like, everything's like black. Duke's kind of more charcoal gray or whatever. But for the purposes of this, I think we'll kind of, let's use the brush and kind of just get a bit of a different texture in the fabric for him. Duke is a bassist. Not that we hear a lot about him being um, musical or whatnot, but I always kind of envision him as being, one of those quiet dudes who's like super into super heavy, loud metal, doom metal type of stuff. His brother Adam also plays bass, although Adam is the one who often gets stuck with taking on bass duties for Noah's band projects at times. Where, for example, one of Noah's bands is a Creed tribute act, and I guess Duke very wisely knew at one point that the bass player needed replacing, so he claimed that his middle fingers were broken, so he couldn't play. So then Adam, who also plays bass, Adam got tapped to fill in. He didn't have a ready-made excuse planned in advance. Adding in these darker areas into Duke's hair. Well, first of all, he's half Italian, so he's going to have dark hair. And I mean, Noah's Danish, but Noah's a brunette as well, so, But also, that then makes the shades not look as extreme. So, got that, and now I'm going to go back to this other nib in order to finish the binoculars. And then the background is just a little bit of, oops. Pine trees or whatever. What else can we say about Duke? Well, Duke also will try to impart some wisdom to his little sister Ursula. Uh, she don't listen, but he tries. For example, I did have one little storyline where Ursula is famously bad. Well, within the comic, famously bad for being terrible with fractions, and Duke took it upon himself to try and teach her, you know, um, by use of jelly beans, and basically he'd put out the jelly beans and he'd say a fraction, and if Ursula got it right, she could keep some of the jelly beans. If she got the number wrong, well, then Adam was sitting right there, so Adam would then get the jelly beans if Ursula got the answer wrong. And then Ursula suddenly could do fractions, but also insisted it was kind of unfair to make her do fractions. There's another one where Ursula has this little thing where she's kind of likes to pretend, well, she would say she's actually a public or private investigator, solving mysteries and whatnot, but then she wants to be paid crazy amounts, $500 to solve a mystery that wasn't actually a mystery and all this. Anyways, so there was a storyline at one point where she's trying to gouge her father for this $500 that she thinks she's owed, for a mystery that she solved that he never agreed to pay her for solving. And the answer he kind of knew anyways. So months later, she was still sore about that. And then Duke's trying to explain to her about, marketing and business that, the customer isn't going to pay you $500 unless the customer feels that they're getting $500 in value or more. And then, so he's having all this frustration trying to explain business concepts to her. And she's not listening. And at some point, Noah sticks his head out the back door because they're doing this around the barbecue. And Noah says, "Are you guys having fun playing NBA?" And she's like, and they're both Duke and Ursula are like, "No." And Noah's like, "Okay, that's great. Have fun, kiddos," and closes the door again. So. We'll come in with the thicker pen to give some definition in here to the different trees. And somewhere way off in the distance, we got envisioning this as like a really big log or stump. So actually, Duke's not standing up. He's lying on his belly, scoping out a valley or something like that. I'm kind of trying to keep a little bit of gap. Like these are very close, but I can definitely scan in and then just erase out all the Duke stuff and then erase out like if Stacy's hair is kind of poking up. Now the thing is that these three were going to take a lot longer. But I know that the Ruth, like the Ruth and the Noah are probably 45 minutes to an hour per drawing. So I don't want to start one of those now. Plus, I was going to do them both together on the next show. So it's going to be just a short little stream today, I guess. But we will do a recap. So I will kind of blather. This is the part where I kind of blather on about what else is coming up this week. So tomorrow on the stream, I will be doing Zommel the Destroyer, and we will be continuing on with The World According to Zommel. And then, in case anybody pops into the stream very late now, I'll just sort of say my usual thing is I save the streams as private when I'm done, and then YouTube does its like processing whatever sort of thing. The next day it's usually done around noon, and then I log in and upload the thing to me, or not upload it, it's already uploaded when I'm streaming, but you know, like make it public is what I mean. So that'll be tomorrow, and then you can watch the replay. And what I will link to in the closing little thing will be the probably just the Noah's Archipelago playlist, because that's got a variety of things. So there's Duke in his favorite environment out scoping for hunting. Now let's, I'm just going to flip to just the document camera. So we have a full view of what we have done today. Short stream, but we'll go through them. So we started out, we can actually probably get even a little bigger here. Yeah. So we started with a portrait of Gigi, who is Noah's eldest son's mother. Gigi went to high school with Noah, got knocked up by Noah in high school towards the, partway through 12th grade. Anyways, she owns a catering business, a little cafe, diner sort of thing. So we have Ursula here and Noah. Noah likes to hang out at Gigi's. The food is good and all that. And Ursula, of course, obviously likes the burgers. So there's Ursula, but pretending to read the menu as if she's going to order something different. So that's Gigi. And then Gigi has been with Glen ever since things didn't work out with her and Noah. Glen was in bands with Noah back in the 90s, and actually that's the whole idea of their graphic novel. Like, I'm thinking of doing a graphic novel about one of the bands that they were in together back in the day. You know what? I'm mildly bothered by the fact that that bandana is, I don't want it black because it's actually red, but it's too light. So let's add some, some like finer cross hatching, just to give it a little bit of tone. See, even that's better, I think. Just so that it's not blending in with his forehead, because it is supposed to be kind of a red. So anyways, Glen is a car dude, aside from playing in bands and stuff. He's a car dude. He works in a junkyard. He also rebuilds classic cars and stuff and participates in car shows. This would be one of the cars he worked on that the sign says don't touch, but there's Ursula leaning up against it. So Glen and Gigi, we haven't seen much in the web comic. Although in the first book we see more of Glen, and we do see Gigi a couple times. Gigi later on, Glen would kind of be in the background if Noah and Adam were hanging out at Gigi's. And Gigi was guilt-tripping Adam about the lack of grandbabies. Anyways, so we've got those two. And then we have Noah's younger son, Duke, whose mom is, Noah's second wife, Maria, who we've never seen Maria in the comic. We've heard her referred to, but we haven't seen her. But anyways, Duke is a hunting guide, so there he is out in the bush with his binoculars looking for something. And those are the 3 drawings we did this time. Let me just switch back. So next week's show then is going to be the last 2 cast portraits, and I'll just put them up. There's Noah singing his heart out on stage, and then Ruth teaching about adverbs. She's a 2nd grade teacher. I know it doesn't show up very well, but that's the idea because it's non-photo blue. And by the way, we've shown that before in a previous stream. There's Adam. So anyways, that brings us to, if you've enjoyed the show, do subscribe. So we've got one more show on the Noah's Archipelago cast portraits. After that, I'm hoping to be ready to start illustrating some portraits for a spoof piece that I've talked about before, which is kind of spoofing something that The Atlantic published, blowing smoke up Bono's butt. And it's just that over top, like, we're important literature, but we're writing about rock stars. But anyways, it's one of those kind of things. So hopefully in a couple weeks I'll be ready to start illustrating scenes from that. So that'll be fun. And I already talked about my streaming schedule. From now on, it'll be 7 p.m. to start, Monday through Saturday with different project, Monday through Friday, 5 different things, one a day. And then on Saturday, I do the quick flip through recap of what I've drawn that week. And then I do some brainstorming, sketching in sketchbooks for fun and goofing around. So that's what's coming up. And like I said, tomorrow is Zombie the Destroyer, Noah again on Thursday, and then the Rats, specifically Ricky, on Friday. So that's that for tonight's show. And I'm hoping to have info on this book. Here, I'll make it more interesting. I'll put Noah's mother, Hrefna, up on screen. We did that one last week, right? I'm hoping to have updates about, like the ISBN stuff. I'm still waiting to hear back from Library and Archives Canada as to when I will have my ISBN account set up. Who knows? Maybe tomorrow, maybe next month. I don't know. They're just saying that there's significant backlog. But once that happens, then I can proceed, and it'll still probably be about 2 months, 3 months before the book will be ready to go. But, we're getting there. We're getting there. So, and I've used the delay because initially I wasn't going to do these cast portraits. I was like, I'm just going to have my introduction straight into the comics. And I'm like, maybe you should put, once I understood that there was going to be a delay, I'm like, I should do some cast portraits. I have the time. So anyways, yeah, we'll see you again real soon. And what I'm going to leave you guys with after my little, where's my thank you? There we go. So there you have Noah and Ursula on your left-hand side. And what I'm going to leave you guys with will be just a link to the Noah's Archipelago, the general Noah's Archipelago playlist with all the streams. And I think it also has a bunch of shorts, so random illustrations and stuff on there as well. So thank you for watching. See you again real soon, and bye for now.